I'm Roniel.
I'm DaRon. I had this case a while back. This boy was accused of raping this a teenage boy, raping this teenage girl classmate, and that was actually really interesting because so what had happened was they apparently had been boyfriend and girlfriend for a good long time, and I think it was at a Catholic school, something like that.
Mm.
They had the different sexes in different parts of the school, and they weren't, never the two shall meet, but apparently they did. So
Mm.
uh, they were, there was a shed in the back of the school, way far back of the property, right? Apparently that's where they were having intercourse, and they got found out. A janitor, just for whatever reason, he happened to be going back. He went back to the shed. I think they had a few supplies in there, but no one ever went back there. That's why these kids were always doing it there. And the janitor stumbled upon them going at it and immediately reported it. And so the
Going at
yeah yeah.
Okay, that's a good one.
So then the school, of course, expels both kids and calls the parents and says, hey, your kids are getting expelled because they were having sex in school. So this is where it gets interesting. The parents of the girl actually convinced her to instead lie and say that he raped her and that I don't know how she was trying to explain how she got to the shed because she wasn't. That was yeah, yeah,
How do you explain how you got there?
right. Way the far corner of school property where no one's allowed to go. You're there, he's there. You both have your clothes off. You were very much aware.
Hmm.
And the janitor had reported rather pleasurable sounds coming, uh, you know, uh, from people when he stumbled upon it.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so now this actually was an interesting case. So this was where you mix that private investigator and that digital forensics. It's one of the really nice things. In my case, I have an actual private investigator license. I do digital forensics, and I do, as you all know, other stuff. But it was nice because so oftentimes actually my cases wind up combining all of these different skill sets that you wouldn't need if all you did were digital forensics. Because if the only thing you did were digital forensics, then you'd be looking at computers all day and analyzing computers all day and writing reports, and it wouldn't be as much fun as being able to go out into the field talking to these people. But you do these interviews with people, and it was so interesting because we get the boy's phone, right? And because he wanted, obviously we were on his side in this particular one. So we get the boy's phone, and we're looking at all these text messages, and I kid you not, it was clear. Did you ever hear about the Mattress Girl case?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so there was
Mattress Girl.
this lady in college whose name I will not utter because it does not deserve to be said. She she was in a relationship with this boy from Germany. I say boy, this man from Germany, and he was an international student there. So what do you call it? Anyway, he was going to college there, and I guess he didn't want to be steady with her, and it seems like apparently he was done with the relationship. So she went through and she actually accused him of rape, and the school investigated, and the school police investigated and said, there's no evidence of rape, and so they ignored it, right? And so she went around carrying a mattress on with her to every class and drummed up this big thing where women were carrying mattresses all over campuses, all over the place, in solidarity, and they refused to, they'd tape their mouths as they carried this mattress for all the women who were raped. And rape is a terrible thing. Rape is a horrible thing. We talked about child sex abuse, which was a very difficult discussion to have a little bit in the last one. But in the case of Mattress Girl, she kept pressing and took it to the press, claiming that the school didn't do anything about it and the police didn't do anything about it, and the world is so evil toward women, and you should believe all women. Well, it turned out that what had happened was, as I described, he just wasn't interested in her anymore, so she accused him of rape. He actually got kicked. It was so bad, he left the school and left the United States back to Germany. And it was just terrible. I mean, it ruined his life. Absolutely ruined his life. And I have dealt with cases where people were raped and it was legitimate. And I think one of the things that irks me the most is when you have people who lie about such a horrible thing. Because it's like, I get mad when someone claims that something is racist that isn't. For the same exact reason. Because I sit there and I go, okay, I've been a victim of racism. You've been a victim of racism. And it's a horrible thing. An absolutely horrible thing. And when someone lies about being a victim of rape or racism or, this other highly negative experience, and it gets proven that the person lied, then people say, see, you can't believe someone who claims that they were a victim of racism, or they were a victim of rape, or they were a victim of sexual harassment at work, or they were a victim of this or that, right? So it really bothers me when people lie. Immensely about that, especially. So anyway, I guess the parents, rather than admit that their daughter was, having carnal relations with this other teenage boy, that's what they did. And the text messages were very damning, just like in the case of the Mattress Girl. When you look at the communications involved, it was extraordinarily damning. And what I find interesting is, in the case of the Mattress Girl, when his side finally won out, the media never talked about it. The only thing they ever talked about was how she was allegedly raped. And they always painted him out as a bad guy. But when it turned out that she was the bad guy, nothing. Silence. Well, sorry, it's still a little hard from the other discussion.
Yeah, I know, I got
you. What I found really interesting was when we confronted the parents and the girl with these text messages from her, they actually... This is highly unusual. You see it in movies all the time, right? You have this preponderance of evidence, you show it to the bad guy, and the bad guy just dumps out their plan and explains everything and admits their guilt. You see that in like all these CSI and Law and Order and all this stuff. That almost never happens. Almost never happens. Usually you've got this preponderance of evidence, you show it to the person like what we talked about in the last one. And the person's like, oh no, this wasn't me. This is all a frame job. You don't believe me. I'm just going to hire someone else who believes me. No, that not in this case. The parents actually folded and admitted the whole thing was a lie. And I was shocked that almost never happens. It almost never happens. But that is, the only way you're going to get that is with good detective work. So we had a conversation before about a gentleman where I had I did an interview with him, with his lawyer there. I mean, and I beat the daylights out of him. I had so much. I cornered that guy because he thought that we were going after someone else because that's where he had pointed us. But so we're having this interview with him, and I'm asking him all these questions, and I'm slowly coming around the corner to where I'm talking about him, and he doesn't realize that's what's going on. So he's admitting all of this stuff. and then they start just beating him over the head with it one after another. Well, that guy got mad and he shut down. He stopped talking completely. That's more what you're usually going to get. Although males and females tend to respond differently, neither one usually admits guilt. Males are more likely to get incredibly confrontational and or shut down. Women are more likely to instead do more misdirection. But it depends. I mean, there are plenty of women who get confrontational, plenty of men who do more misdirection, all that kind of stuff. So I just thought that was an interesting one from the perspective of it was a case where we had someone accused, in this case of rape, which is an incredibly serious accusation. And we were actually able to show that it didn't happen and actually get the alleged victim to admit that they were not, in fact, the victim. And that it was all because she didn't want her parents to know, and her parents didn't want everyone else to know that, you know, she was sexually active.
So so this girl that was doing it with the guy in the shed, whatever, got caught, and then she blamed that guy for rape.
Yes.
And then they found out that the parents told and said it was not true. So
yeah.
When that stuff happens, is it for all of the stuff that the boy went through, does he get some type of, what is it? Nothing?
He gets nothing. All right. So Roniel and I want to be very clear. Both of us, we both have daughters.
Yeah.
We both have women in our lives that we love, mothers, all that good stuff that we absolutely love. And we feel very strongly for anyone who has been sexually assaulted. I've been sexually assaulted, and mine was actually by women who have been sexually assaulted, who have been sexually harassed, who have been raped, male or female. I don't care who it is, and I don't care who attacked you. It's a terrible, horrible thing. But I think, unfortunately, in some ways we've gone too far. Like when we say, believe all women. As an investigator, I don't believe anyone, actually. To start off with, I sit there and I'm like, I don't believe you, and I don't believe you. Because usually both people, they may not be lying, but they may not be right. And what I mean by that is, our memories are faulty. Everyone's memory is faulty. Or you may have misinterpreted something. That happens. But usually there are things that are wrong about anything, about something that someone says when they talk about what they did and all this other stuff, right? And when you do enough cases, and you hear it from lawyers all the time. All the lawyers I work with, they all sit there and say everybody's a liar. They get so jaded, and I know why. Because it's so true. You do these investigations, and like I said, it's very rare. I've had only a few cases where I had someone who was telling me the truth the whole time. Very few cases. Like, I have had those cases, but the point being, I think our laws and our media especially, but our laws have gone too far. I don't believe that the victim should be ostracized. I don't believe that the victim should be attacked. I don't believe that the victim should be believed without cause. And I don't believe that the perpetrator should be believed without cause. Now I say this, and I'll tell you that obviously there's an exception in my mind, right? And the exception that I have in my head is probably the same one that you have. And that is, if my wife, if my daughters, if, my sisters, if my mother, if any of them said something, and I have had family members who've told me that they were sexually abused, I believed them immediately because I know and I love them, right? And I think that's an important part, is when we hear these cases, oftentimes on the news, you'll hear the family talk, like I did in this case. The parents talk. oh, he raped my daughter and all of this other stuff. Well, she lied to them. They knew she lied. And I do mean that because they admitted they knew she lied. But they still believed because it was their daughter. And also because they didn't want to admit that, their daughter was being sexually active in school. So, yeah. I mean, the point being is it is dangerous to listen to the victim's family, the alleged victim's family. It really is. And we have to be careful because there could be a real victim that you're missing in all of this. And in this case, it was the teenage boy, and he's screwed for the rest of his life, despite having done nothing wrong from a legal perspective.
Rape is a serious accusation, and it's not nothing to play with. And that's you think about what you're doing before you do it. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Because you're hurting people, women or men, you know what I'm saying? And it's not a game, so just think about what you're doing before you say or do shit like that could hurt other people.
Yes.
And if you guys like, this episode tells from a digital forensic investigator, there will be more to come. Please like, comment, and subscribe down below. And let us know if you want more episodes like this one. I'm Roniel.
I'm DaRon.
And until the next time.